Hello, it's Nadine, and I'm here with this week's episode of Life, Health, and the Universe. And I'm joined with this week's guest, Suzi Daphnis. Welcome, Suzi.
I'm very excited to be
I'm
here.
very excited to
Congratulations
be
on the
too.
show. I keep hearing wonderful things about it.
Thank you. I'm really excited. I get excited about everyone coming on. My paper's flapping around, excuse me. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. And I think when you put your hand up and said, I'll be a guest, I was like, oh, we could talk about lots of things, but I've kind of narrowed it down because otherwise we'll be here all day. So I'm going to start by telling the listeners what I know about you.
Okay.
Some of the things I know about you.
Okay.
And then you can fill in the gaps, say some things about yourself that I've missed or are incorrect, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Sounds good.
So things I know about you. You're the founder and CEO of HerBusiness. I think they're the special words that you use. You love your work, you love your partner PJ and your dog Kona very much. Yes. You refer to yourself as an introvert, although you do spend quite a lot of time out there with the people. You love travel, great food, great company, family, friends, lover of beautiful things, and you love running.
I do.
Notice how I said love about all of those things.
Oh, you did. Lots of love in there.
Passionate person. Passionate and loving. And your motto is do what you love every day. There you go.
There you go.
And I believe that you live by that motto. And you encourage
I do, to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
To the best. Can't say that every day is check, 100% doing what I love all day, every day. But more often than not, doing what I love. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So welcome. Is there any, that's kind of my things about you in a nutshell. Like, it just doesn't seem like quite enough.
Because I've been around a long time. I think all of those things are correct. My dog, my partner, my travel, my food. If you follow me on social media, you know that all those things are true because I'm always posting about my running or where I've been or my travel. And I'm so glad to be able to travel again and have lots of travel scheduled for this year. And I love my work. I love to help women in business to grow more scalable, more profitable businesses, to connect with each other. And though we met in a totally different way, you've been part of the community now for long enough to know that it is an incredible community of women that I just care so much about, that I love. There's that word again. I don't throw my love around willy-nilly, but I do very passionately love to see women reach their full potential in business or get closer to it. And I love I'm a podcaster as well. That's something about me. I'm first generation Greek Australian, Sagittarian, paleo eating athlete. That's probably more than people need to know.
There's lots in there. So cool. Thank you so much for joining us. And as I said, there's a whole bunch of things that we could talk about. We've known each other for a hot minute. Which is kind of unusual. I told someone today that I was going to do the interview with you, and she was like, oh, you actually know her, because I haven't met so many of my guests in person.
Oh, right.
But it's really cool to have you here. And I thought it would be really great for us to kick off by talking about how we met. And the podcast is called Life, Health, and the Universe. So that's all the things we talk about. And we met when you were at a certain point in your life where you needed to put your hand up and say, I need to do something about my health, right? Would that be?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
So what was happening then?
I, at the time, actually, just before I met you, I'd been living in the United States for 7 years, running a business there that my partner and I started while running a business here. And though we had a team in place here and we had a team in place there, I was still on the road a lot. I think, the year before I met you, I had spent over 300 nights in a hotel room. running events
Wow.
around this country and other countries, and getting to the end of the day, drinking half a bottle of wine, eating whatever was available. And more, I was putting on weight, but more than that, my energy was being zapped and I was getting burnt out. And I had a little health scare, actually. I don't even know if I ever told you that.
Mm.
And I was on the phone to one of my team members right in the middle of a meeting, and everything went black. And I didn't faint, but I just went over.
Wow.
And then I was throwing up, and I ended up getting a whole lot of tests, and a lot of it was stress induced, and just I wasn't in the best of health. And so I started to do a little bit of training while I was living in the US. And then I decided we were coming back to live in Australia. We were selling our business and closing another business and just really changing our life. And so I came across a gym that had been recommended by a friend, and started to work out there reluctantly at first.
How things have changed.
But it really changed because there was something about that environment and the culture and the habits that I developed then that now, that was the year 2005, I think. So now, 18 years later, or whatever it is, I'm still regularly working out and training, and still very much connected to the people that I met all that time ago.
Yeah, wow. So that was with us, right? In the gym in Sydney. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of even remember right back then, there was still, when you're in the beginnings of your training and your health journey, it was still a bit of a work, travel, like there was still a bit of a break. And now I feel like now it's a much more regular part of what you do every day.
It is. Look, I still have times where, like, I was just in the US for 2 weeks and I ran twice, so I go through these cycles, and I do fall out of my routine of how I eat and how I sleep and all of that. But that's not been enough to sideline it and have me give up. I'll quickly get back on track. So this week and last week I've been back at the gym, and so I'm definitely feeling it. But now I know within a couple of weeks I'll be sort of back in my routine, and it's a regular way of life, just like the eating, which I first again got introduced to. Let's try a different way of eating. I had a lot of allergies, and I had a lot of things that I would always react to, and so we tried a couple of different things and got introduced to different ways to think about nutrition through working with you and your husband Darren. And so now the way I eat is very different. And again, I might go off the rails on a Friday night or whatever, but it doesn't matter because my habits are in effect really supporting me to have the energy and the lifestyle and the weight that I want. But it took a few years of really being committed to it and surrounding myself with people who would hold me to account and who would help me continue to develop that habit. Because I had been to gyms before, but it'd be 3 months and then I'd stop, or then I'd try dance and then I'd try something else, and I would get really, really bored. But the way that you created the classes and the personal training opportunities, and Nadine, you and I worked together one-on-one for many years. It just became, I don't know, so there was a head shift for me where it suddenly became it became more important. I was also over 40 at that point. Right. Might have been 2007, actually. I was over 40 and I was like, okay, I can't get away with what I used to get away with the same way. So I need to change some habits, especially if I want to be fitter and stronger as I get older, not have the pattern that I see a lot of people have, is that they have this belief that their health and strength should lessen as they get older. I found I got more strength and well-being into my 40s, into my early 50s than I'd had in my 30s.
Yeah. Because it's a different priority, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely fitter than maybe not late 30s, early 40s, obviously, because we were doing some serious CrossFit stuff then, but definitely healthier and fitter now than I was when I was in my late 20s.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. I guess what happens is the more you do it, the easier it is to go back to doing it when you do have those little gaps. Do you know what I mean? It's like that becomes your normal.
Yes.
And those stepping away from it is the not normal.
Correct.
So there's a bit of a shift.
Yeah.
So I mentioned CrossFit.
You did.
And this is something that we have dabbled in, right?
Dabbled?
I look really hot. I just have to say I look really hot because it's like 31 degrees and I don't have aircon. So I feel like I'm like rather flushed at the moment.
Oh,
Yeah. So we dabbled in a little bit of CrossFit back in the day. One might say that we were early adopters of the movement.
Yes, well, I'm pretty sure your gym was like the second or
Second or
third
third.
gym in Australia to follow the
Yeah.
CrossFit
Yeah.
philosophies and methodologies and type of training. And really, that was the shift for me. It was, you know, it was like, oh my gosh, I finally found something I love. As difficult as it is, as scared as I was every time I came and I was going to be confronted with a CrossFit workout, I still loved it. So yes, dabble. I don't know that dabble. I think you were like a star athlete, you know,
Wow.
international level. Listeners, listen up. She was amazing and represented Australia.
Oh, so were you.
but yeah, it was I loved it. I still love it.
Yeah.
Still love it.
Yeah.
Even though it looks very different to what it did 10 years ago for me.
Yeah, it looks very different for me these days too. But I feel like we've probably had, like, from doing it quite seriously and consistently for a period of time, you can kind of just maintain, right? And still have a pretty good level of fitness without
absolutely,
without the stress of those terrible workouts.
Those scary workouts. Like, my stomach turn.
I still feel like that before a CrossFit workout.
I do too.
So we actually went to the first, well, it was the third CrossFit Games, but
Correct.
it was the first one that they opened up worldwide.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Do
many people know that about you?
No, I mention it now and then. If you have like a trivia question, it's something you don't know about me or something like that, I might mention it, but I don't. And, you know, partly it was because it was a long time ago, and partly because I don't know. You know what? I can do more now than I could then, but I also feel like I'm not a fire-breathing CrossFit athlete, so I shouldn't sort of hold that label on myself, but I'm still a CrossFit athlete. But no, I don't usually say that. I think I felt way out of my depth being there. And so what Nadine's talking about is like Nadine was representing women, like she was an individual athlete and I was part of a team that went to America. And really, if I really own that, that's pretty amazing. Really.
Yeah.
For someone who came from not being an athlete, you know, until I was 40. You know, in any serious way, but it was incredible. It was an incredible experience and one that I will carry forever. Even though I can hear it in my voice, I kind of make less of it a little bit. Like it wasn't a real thing, but it was a real thing.
It was a real thing. I think probably because the CrossFit has evolved so much. It was real when we did it back then. It was real grassroots, right? It was at the ranch. Right. They were just a bunch of people having a good time, really.
Yeah, and it wasn't like all pro athletes who are now CrossFitters, and so you know, wouldn't stand a chance these days, like to do any. But then it was like you said, it was a little raw. It was people like figuring this thing out, having a really good time competing, stretching themselves, and a whole lot of fun. And we had fun just being together. I still remember us after the games driving to where was it, somewhere in Los Angeles, and just singing our hearts out in the car on the way there. Competition was all over. We were just ready to have a couple of drinks
having a good time
and have a good time. It was really good.
yeah, definitely. How did you feel? I'm going to keep going with the CrossFit thing for a minute. How did you feel when you were out there doing it? Like, I know you said that you talked it down a little bit, like the whole experience.
Out there doing it, I was nervous. I didn't know. While I'd been training CrossFit a few years at that point, I never, and I had done maybe 3 or 4 local events, and I had done okay in them. I had never been on an international stage, if you like, and didn't really know if I had the skill set. And I mean, I'm more skilled now as an athlete than I was then, but then everyone was a little less skilled, I think, you know, the expectations were different. I was just going to give it my best shot, as I always do. And that's all I did. And we didn't win, and we, you know, didn't expect we were going to win, but we did okay. And I was just, here's what I was proud of, saying yes, because I didn't have to say yes. Like when I was invited to do it, I could have said, no, can't do it. Thanks. I don't feel up to it. And I did it anyway. So I'm proud of that. But I think it's a little to my personality, is like, I will stretch myself. Even like I'm talking about it and I'm getting a stomach ache. when things scare me, sometimes they give me a stomach ache. It was pretty scary, but it was a whole lot of fun, and I love it. And occasionally I'll get a photo memory from that time, and I'll go, oh wow, I was much heavier then. That's one thing I say. I was much heavier. I like built like a brick shit house. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this. Yeah,
yeah, you can swear.
But it was really good fun, and it was great to be there with you and with Darren and the team put together.
Yeah, cool. One thing that it's really interesting. So one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and I think it's a good segue, because CrossFit, like the thing that you said about CrossFit is it created some momentum for you, for your health and your lifestyle. And one of the powerful thing probably the most powerful thing, it's not, community, right? People, the people you do it with. Yes. So this is a great segue into there's lots of powerful things about CrossFit, I have to say, because you just stretch yourself, like you said.
But it was the community, Nadine, for me. That was the difference. I had been to gyms. No one talks to you. No, you don't know anyone. You don't get greeted by first name. You don't interact with other people, really. You kind of get on your elliptical trainer or your weight machines and you just do what you do. And I'm being a little disparaging because it was just like this lifeless kind of thing. And I was never an aerobics class person or anything like that. But with CrossFit, here's what I loved, and I still love, is that you didn't have to be a fire-breathing 26-year-old male swinging from the rafters to get encouragement. You could be the middle-aged woman doing your very first push-up on your knees, or the young athletes who's doing their first pull-up, or just lifted the most that they ever could, which to one person could be nothing, right? Because right next to you, there might be someone lifting double their body weight, and here you are doing your very first squat with a bar. And I kind of get goosey because that's what I loved, is that people were there to cheer each other on, and often the people getting the most support, the most lifting up. And I know we're going to talk about community and a little bit about how we do that inside of my community, but that's what I loved, is that you were partnering, you were collaborating, you were helping. Nobody finished and went, well, I'm done, I'm going to go home. They stayed around and they applauded and they cheered on for that last person who was doing that last rep. Maybe over time, maybe the bell had gone, whatever it was, but we never gave up on each other. And that continues to be, I think, the strength of CrossFit, and why it kept me in there, and why some of my very good friends that I still have came from that period where I was doing a lot of CrossFit workouts. Yeah, totally. And I think that, like, you've got those, as you said, those people cheering you on, but there's that also that commitment that you have to the people that you're training with, right? So it makes you go, because it's like, well, my friends are going to be there. I don't want to let them down by not showing up. No, and I want to keep up with them. So there's this it builds a real sort of strong network of people, and drives your motivation and all of the things. All the things. And I think that's all the things, just being around people who you like, who like you, who you feel supported by. You don't feel alone. You if you're feeling scared, that's okay. There's 10 other people next to you also scared about that workout and what it might mean. But that camaraderie, that community is, I think, the secret sauce that if people don't know why, CrossFit is as popular as it has been, it is the community. And I remember hearing a saying that, how do you know someone does CrossFit? Because they tell you they do CrossFit. Because people are also proud of being part of this movement. And they're picking their calluses. Yes, I know. Now and then I do. I put my hand up. Like you can see it. I'll show Nadine while we're here on video. It's like, it's so unattractive. They're not girly, but there's my CrossFit hands. They're not as bad as they used to be. I used to tear my hands all the time. I think it's really interesting, this idea of community, and this is our segue into what you do. I remember back in the day, like when we did start CrossFit, right, and community wasn't that big a thing. And I know that you're a massive fan of Seth Godin, and he wrote the book Tribes. I haven't read it. I have to admit, I haven't read it. But it was like this observation about how important other people are in our lives, right? And all of the things that you've just said about community, how important it is. And it was like this lost thing. Like, we weren't doing it anymore. And I think it's evolved over, like, how many years ago was that that we started CrossFit? But it feel like that was all part of like this
realization how important other people are in our lives and our networks and that sort of thing.
Facebook groups didn't exist then.
No.
You know, so this idea of community and being in an environment with other people was, you know, we understood the idea of a tribe, and maybe we belonged to a church that had a community or some, but this idea of finding our tribes and finding our communities was a lot, it wasn't as known. And
and it didn't even seem like it had as much value, right? We
No.
didn't realize how important it was for our mental and emotional well-being.
Yes.
Like we're designed to be with other people.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the way we were made. And it doesn't mean that you have to be part of a big community, but really finding your people. So certainly if we could just go back to CrossFit, one of the things I found, and I'm sure you did too, is that you could be a CrossFit athlete in Surrey Hills in Sydney, but then you might be visiting Melbourne and you would go into a CrossFit gym and you're still part of the community because it had the similar culture and ethos around the things that we mentioned earlier. And I remember someone saying about our community is I could turn up anywhere, and if there's other members of the HerBusiness network, I know that I always have a friend in the room. And I think that's how you know you're part of a community that really matters to you, is that you always feel like you have a friend in the room.
So tell us about your amazing community, because we've known each other for a long time. I think what are we saying, 15 years or something?
Yeah, it's at least 15 years. I'll have to find
many people in the online space would know you now. Obviously, you're the CEO. Do you call yourself the CEO?
The CEO of HerBusiness.
CEO of HerBusiness. And so to the people, the community that you have now, they've seen you in this. What am I trying to get at? They haven't seen all of the stuff that you've been doing for so many years, leading to this point where you've got a big community of people, right? But community has always been something that you have been striving for with the women that you work with, that you support.
So the business, just in its essence, because I didn't start the business. This business was started by a woman in Victoria who was a caterer, and she wanted to just start having lunch with other women business owners who were caterers, and she started to build this little network in Victoria, and at the time it was called the Australian Business Women's Network. And I met her, and she said, "Would you like to run New South Wales?" And cut a long story short, I said, sure. And then the more I did it, the more I loved it. She ended up having a couple of children, moving to country Victoria, and I bought the business off her. This is like a million years ago. And then about 7 years ago, we changed the name from Australian Business Women's Network to HerBusiness. A lot of things changed in the time that I've been with this organization. One, online. Never used to be there. So my community, you know, your community might have used to be the people in your local town or suburb or city. Now our community is women all over Australia and increasingly the world who get together to brainstorm, to be accountable to each other, to learn together, to do trainings together, to ask questions of each other. And community has always been important for me, as you said. Even in my previous business, I had an events business for 13 years, and that's partly why I was living in the United States. We would go into a new town and we would have 50 people on team running an event, but they weren't all my staff. They were mostly volunteers. And so we build these communities of volunteers who would come together. They had a shared interest in the topics that we were presenting. And I always loved to see what happened when you put people together who have similar values and similar thinking and just let them go. They can create amazing things. And so HerBusiness is a community for women business owners. It's the most established, longest standing community that's specifically designed for the woman who has her own business. And it's always been an educational community. So we've always done trainings, and we did our very first webinar in 2006. And people didn't know what a webinar was, and they would ring and say, "Where do I park?" And it's like, park your butt right where you are. We're coming to you. You just need an internet connection. And more, as more tools became available, whether it is, you know, Zoom calls or whether it is Facebook groups or online forums, etc., we can start to connect women. And so one of our greatest values in our community is connection. So there is learning, there is, but connecting with others, whether they be suppliers or collaborators or clients or referrers or shoulder to cry on or someone to ask a question of. For me, while I am the mentor and the CEO and I curate a lot of the information and courses, the magic is actually in the women connecting with each other, in the women knowing that they have a community. Because you know what it's like, you own a small business, it can feel like you're totally on your own and that you're isolated. And sure, you can Google ideas, but that's not trusted advice. How much better is it to have a community who are also doing landing pages, getting clients, creating lead magnets, running ads, starting groups, doing podcasts, etc., where you can ask a question and you can get a trusted answer from other women who are also growing and scaling a business, who are also trying to do that without burning out, without, you know, sidelining families, and just knowing that you always have that resource there available to you. And so I'm so grateful for our community, and marvel. Just yesterday, day before, we did an event with our community, and they're just smart women, caring women. I think the value and the culture of collaboration over competition. I love all that. It's what I stand for. It's what I believe in, and I feel like it's really well represented in our community. I hope you agree, because you're part of the community.
Yeah, I am part of the community. I'm still going. I love it. Yeah, yeah, it's a really important part of my life, I think. Yeah,
great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
When you first started, went right back when you bought the business off of the lady in Melbourne, did you have a vision? Did you have a vision of where it was going to be today, or or was it kind of like, I'm just going to see how it goes?
Yeah,
I don't really know what I want to do with this.
Yeah, here's what I knew, that while it was someone else's and I was sort of just responsible for my little patch in New South Wales, there was only so much impact I could have. And at the time we were doing monthly events in Sydney, Melbourne, and sometimes Brisbane. I sort of took that on as well.
You were doing like a mastermind or something, were you?
No, we were doing monthly events with a guest speaker and canapes and that sort of thing. And it was a very different model, because online events didn't exist. That was in 1995. I started with that organization. I bought it in 98, and we were still very much offline. People had email addresses but didn't really use online the way we do now. And so what I've always been good at is running events, bringing together speakers and subject matter experts. So I continued a few more years with that. At the same time, technology was starting to change. So the moment that I could, I came back to Australia, and I was going to pour myself more fully into that organization, because it was always just a passion project. It was on the side of my main business. Once I sold my business and I was going to pour myself into this, technology has started to catch up. And so that's when the vision came about, because I wanted to be able to do this nationally, but there was no way that we could afford to, or logistically manage, doing events for women all around Australia. We're a big country. There's a lot of places. And so as soon as technology came on board, we adopted doing online trainings very, very early. And that's where I could see this vision that now, whether you're in a city, a country town, a rural area, whether you're even overseas, you could have access to the same resources that women in big cities who could go to a breakfast, lunch, and a dinner any day had available. And that's when things started to change. Women they could drop the kids off to school, come back, attend one of our trainings. And it's also, work started to change. Women's businesses started to change. Now women could work from home. They could work from a laptop. A lot of things changed. So for me, the vision has always been to create an incredible community that helps women grow. That's my biggest thing, is that women see progress. And that progress could be you find a new best friend, or you find a supplier, or you find out which is the best tool to use, or you get someone to critique your website and that lets you sell more things, or you get access to experts. So for me, that is the vision. Like I said, I hold the space, I create the environment. I sort of still lead the community, but a lot of the magic that happens in the relationships that happen between the women.
Yeah, cool.
So yes, that makes me very, very happy. Because I'm not the expert. I am an expert. I have grown businesses, but I never want to be like the only, the fountain of knowledge when there is such incredible women in our community.
Sure. Totally get that. Connection.
Yes.
Different vibe face to face compared to online. Do you feel like you would still we do
still do some in-person events. So there are pros and cons. Yeah, there's a big difference. Here's the thing with connecting online. You can do it from anywhere. You can be from anywhere. Like one of the things we do is accountability groups. And I know, Nadine, you're in and you lead an accountability group.
Yep.
So that means your members could be in anywhere, right? So you're not tied to who can meet on a, Saturday morning at 8 a.m. in Balmain. It's like I could be connected to all these women. It's time efficient. It's cost efficient. You can just dress top half and be in your pajamas or shorts in the bottom.
I've done that.
So there's loads and lots of benefits. You can do breakout groups. You can, share your screen. There's loads of things. In person, totally different, because sometimes the gold is in the conversations that happen when you're grabbing a cup of coffee, in between things, when you can eyeball someone. So while the HerBusiness Network, what we offer, everything there, which is the easiest way to get access to us is through the HerBusiness Network. It's the most cost effective and suitable for women who are in the early stages of business or growing, mostly online. But then our higher end programs like our retreat in Hawaii and our year-long mastermind, they have in-person components. We could never do enough in-person events to satisfy all the members. Even if we went to all the capital cities of this country and started to do overseas, we could never do it. But because, there's the time to get there. Well, firstly, there's the costs, which are crazy if you ever run live events. But also just the time, like the getting dressed, the getting in the car, the getting in traffic, the finding the parking, the going to the event, and then doing all that in reverse on the way home. It closes the door to a lot of people who don't have that sort of access. And so I love doing both. I enjoy both. I still, like, next month, I'm going to an in-person conference in Austin, in Texas, that they've run it for the last 2 years virtual because they couldn't because of the pandemic. I didn't tune in.
Right.
I know I get the best when I am in a classroom physically, when it's learning. If it's networking and some lighthearted learning, or 1 hour modules, but this is a 5-day conference and I just could not do it online for 5 days. I need to get there, get my butt in a chair and, choose the sections. So both really, really valuable. And I think as educators, I think it's worth doing both. I think that even if, you're thinking, well, I don't know that I could afford or do an in-person event, I wouldn't rule it out, because your people want to see you. If you're a leader of your community, they want to see you, they want to touch you, they want to be able to eyeball you. And so how could you have some low risk way to get in front of people, whether it's 5 people or 10 people or 15 people? Maybe it's a meetup. Like we've done this in the past. I might be traveling to a different city and I just say, you know what, not doing an event, but I'm going to be at this restaurant from this time. If you want to come along, come. And I don't care if it's 5 people or 15 people or 50 people. It's just about having that other connection. Again, not just for me, but for them to meet each other.
Yeah. Good answer.
Thank you.
No, I'm like, well, I had like probably 3 or 4 questions popped up and now they've gone.
No worries.
No. I'm going to ask you something different. Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
What I was going to say, and I had a thread of thoughts. So, obviously, connecting with people online for you as well, compared to traveling to every major city in Australia and potentially beyond, that's going to take a lot of your physical time compared to being online.
Oh my gosh.
Being able to do one event for everyone compared to several events, that would basically be your entire life, wouldn't it?
It would be my entire life. We have an event called HerBusiness Roundtable. You know them. We do them once a month at the beginning of the month, and they incorporate some training, some networking, some goal setting, some brainstorming. Now, we used to do those as in-person events, and I used to do them every quarter, and I would do them in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. So I would fly to Melbourne the night before, do the event, come back, then fly to Brisbane the night before. So it would take me a week and I could reach only those people who could be there in that city at that time on that date. Now we run them online, and instead of doing them quarterly, we do them once a month. And there's always like 5 times as many people because they don't have to go anywhere. And so it does allow us to give people more momentum, more results in a shorter period of time using technology. So I'm a lover of technology. I don't know how to do any technical things, but I know the outcome I want. I know the outcome I want, and I have wonderful people around me who can make all the tech happen.
That's good. I wish I had some of those people. I'm winging it. So with that, because one of the things that one of my personal aspirations with working at home and having an online business is that it frees up more time for me to have with my family.
Yeah.
Have you filled your time with more work or less, do you think? Or does it just look different?
It just looks different. I love to work, and I other than my working out and exercise, I like to, as I said, I like to go out for dinner. I like to catch up with friends. A lot of that happens sort of out of work hours, but I like to work. And so what it has done is that it's allowed us to grow the business substantially. So it was kind of tracking along. And now it's been able to really grow. And each year we've seen growth over the last few years, especially. And so am I working any less? Probably not. I have more flexibility.
Yeah.
So I can work from home. I can take the afternoon off, and like this afternoon, in a couple of hours, I'm going to go to the gym.
Yep.
And then I'll go home, and that will kind of be it for the day. But I might jump back online this afternoon and just see any messages that have come in. It's yeah, so it has saved me a lot of time, but it's allowed me to actually create more for our members and give them more value and benefits. But I'm not working any less, Nadine. No.
That's all right. The only reason I ask, like, if you do what you love every day, right, which is your motto, then go for it.
The only thing I don't love is that when we're coming to a crunch time, when we've got a really big promotion or something coming up, even though we've got a fabulous team of people, I always manage to create more tasks
Right.
than any human being should be able to do in a day for myself to do. And then I can stress myself out a little bit.
Yeah.
But so we're coming up to a promotion in March now, and I'm just doing my best to just be,
one thing at a
really
time.
well planned and really well, and not give up the things that are important. Going back to your questions earlier, not give up going to the gym, or not give up my Sunday runs, or whatever it is, just because for work. I don't want to do that, because nobody wins out of that. I don't win out of it. My, PJ doesn't win out of it, because I would get grumpy. He's like, "You sure you don't want to go for a run?" So I think that's really important, to not just throw it all out when on account of work, and to still find that balance. I was telling someone this story the other day. I don't really meditate. I'm not really a meditator. Never have been. But I find like my running is my meditation.
Yeah, totally.
But I was going to sleep, and I thought, you know what? Let me pull out that meditation app that I haven't used in about a year, and just go to sleep with something really, really nice. And so I'm in bed. I'm on my phone. I'm pulling up the app. I try to log in. It doesn't let me log in. Okay. Reset your password. Okay, great. Here's my new password. Enter. Won't let me in. Third time. Now, am I feeling relaxed, Dean? No. I'm getting more and more anxious. I hand the phone to my partner, PJ. I go, okay, you try. He enters a new password. He can't get in. He's like, I can't get in either. I'm now like this. I'm just like, I am now stressed. I wasn't stressed. And so it was very, very ironic. And then I looked, and there was another app that I had, and I tuned into that one. Had a beautiful sleep. But I just thought, sometimes, I didn't even know why I told you that story.
That's that tech thing.
It was just ironic.
You need a team to do this apps.
I need a team to do that. So anyway, I wrote up to the app and go, your app is not working. They have not yet responded. So we will see.
I was going to ask you, with the amount of work you do, because you are, like me being a member of HerBusiness, like I know that there's stuff going on inside the community all the time. Like there's stuff happening. Do you feel stressed? Like you've said that particularly specifically with your launch coming up, there's a lot to do. But do you feel like you manage your stress pretty well otherwise?
I think so. Look, I think I get anxious, and I do let myself get stressed. I think I've gotten better at it. I tend to worry, and I mean, that's why exercise has been just so fantastic for me. And the occasional glass of wine, shall we say. But I do stress. It's kind of in my personality. I'm not highly strung. That's not the right word. But I do put pressure on myself, because I feel very accountable to my clients.
Right. Yeah.
But here's the thing. I have the most incredible team. I'm so supported. I don't need to stress. I think it's just an old habit.
Right.
If I'm really honest, it's just an old habit to be like, okay, alert, all the senses, scanning. Is everything okay? Is everything on track? That sort of thing. But no, I'm just so proud of our team and what we produce. And I don't. And like I said, I can still take the day off. Last Friday, PJ and I took the day off and went to an art exhibition, and then we had a beautiful lunch, and and I can do that. Do I do it every week? No, because there's different priorities, and sometimes there's time and sometimes there isn't. But I definitely have more flexibility now than I had, even a couple of years ago.
Yeah, nice, cool.
And sometimes it doesn't take long to de-stress. It could be just a 30-minute run, or just stepping away from the computer for a little while. I don't need to be in a spa. No. I just need to just change my state.
Yeah, and you also almost need to acknowledge that you are stressed and like tap out of that, right?
Yeah.
All right. I've got a whole page of notes here, so for questions.
Okay.
I've got you for a little bit longer.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, because I'm really curious about this, and with you having such, do you consider, first of all, do you consider yourself to have a big online presence?
Look, I wouldn't say I did, but if you Google my name, you'll find me in a lot of places. And that's only, I think, because I've been online for so long.
Yeah.
That it's historical. I definitely don't have the most number of followers or the biggest Instagram account, none of that, but I do have an online presence, and I do have a presence. I've had a lot of media. I've been on television. I've done lots of media interviews. And for that purpose alone, I think that I have a presence, especially in my industry and especially amongst women business owners.
So my question leading on from that is, do you get concerned about your personal life merging with your work life, like, because people can see what you're doing?
Oh, that's really
do you
interesting.
ever get any weirdos?
Oh, no, I don't. And let's not bring that into the space at all. No, I share my life, but I don't overshare, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I do have like my personal account on Facebook, and I have a personal account on Instagram. Well, it is public. And then I have a business account. And so most of our members will follow my HerBusiness account and the HerBusiness page. And more friends will follow. Well, I don't connect with just anyone on Facebook. It is more for personal purposes and people who I'd sit down and have a dinner with. A friend of mine once said to me that you don't have to divulge, your deep, dark secrets or your family or all of that. It's about showing your personality.
Yeah.
And I was just having this conversation this morning with someone I was interviewing for our podcast, which is about, what are the things I share about? I share about running, the things that you said. I share about dinners and time out. I share about, travel. I share a lot about travel, but again, I don't always share it in my business channels. I'll share it more in my personal channel. That having been said, before the pandemic, PJ and I took 10 weeks overseas, and we went to New York, and we rented an apartment, and we stayed there for 10 weeks. And it was a lifelong kind of goal that for both of us that was realized. And in the beginning, I thought, people don't really, clients, community, they don't really want to know about that. It's kind of a personal goal, and something in my heart said, just share it. And so I started to do these kind of weekly wrap-ups of what we'd been doing in New York, whether it was the shows we were watching or the restaurants we were going to or the runs in Central Park or whatever. And our community loved it because it was aspirational. It was like, oh, wow. And then since then, I know at least one member who has taken her 10 weeks off, and she went to Europe. And she said, I would not have done it had I not seen that it's possible in the world, then it's possible for me. How do I get myself over there for 10 weeks? Not even the affordability, but the ability to extract yourself from your business and not have the business carket in the meantime. And so for me, always I'm pretty introverted, as you said, and I'm far more quiet in person than people might think, because like you said, I'm out there, I'm podcasting, I'm here, I'm whatever I'm doing. But I'm much more a dinner party person than a party person, if you know what I mean. I think you're the same probably. And so I sometimes think that I could probably share more personally on social media channels. But I don't know, I just do it to the level of my comfort. right now. I don't even know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, yeah, it does kind of answer my question. But I was kind of like, I guess some people are very clear about their boundaries, and
Right.
they won't let someone contact them on Facebook Messenger
Right.
if they're a client. Do you know what I mean? That
Yes.
kind of,
Well, I would too. If it was a
like,
client, I would say, contact me here. Unless the
yeah,
client is a
okay,
personal friend, then it's
yes,
different.
yes,
So no, I
yes,
definitely do that.
you
And
do
people
have
should
those
not
boundaries.
contact me if they have questions, because I'm not the person to help them about the network. They should just talk
Go
to
to
the
the
team
group.
who know how everything works.
Oh dear. All right. Now we're 45 minutes in, and I've still got
Okay.
questions.
Okay, you go for it. No
But
worries.
we're on life, health, and the universe, and we've covered a
Yes.
bit of life and work,
Yes.
which is life, and we've covered some health, and
Yes.
now we're going to go woo woo.
Woo woo. I love it.
And I know that you do like a little bit of woo woo,
I love me a bit of woo woo.
and you actually tell a story with I don't know if you share it outside of the network or with about your goal that you drew in the sand.
Oh yeah, I may have
Did
I
you?
may have shared
That's
that.
kind
Yeah.
of like a manifesting. Do you
It
feel like,
is.
yeah?
It is. Yeah.
How so do you want to share that story?
Sure, I'd love to. So I had been in business for about 3 years, and we had built the business to, I think it was about
This
$300,000 in
business
revenue.
or
No,
another
thank
business?
you. Good. Yeah, no, I had an events business for
Yeah.
13 years. And so we had the business for about 3 years. We had about $300,000 revenue. We had some staff, and we'd grown it as much as we could, and then we were kind of stuck about what to do next. We were burning ourselves out. We were working so hard for that $300,000 and paying staff and whatever. And so it was a winter weekend, and PJ and I rented a little house in a beachside town called Hyman's Beach, which is in New South Wales. And we were going to go and just unpack what was happening. What did we love about the business? What was no longer working for us? Which team we still wanted to keep on? Which team perhaps weren't working out? What was the next few years going to be like? Because we'd been in business for a few years at this point. So we kind of knew the game. Okay, we were in business, but we weren't totally loving it.
Mm.
And we spent a lot of time. It was a long weekend. It was winter. I remember it was really, really cold. And we would go for a walk on the beach and just have some time to ourselves, have some time together, come back, flip charts, colored pens, writing things up, dissecting this, that, and the other thing. And one morning we were out on the sand, and there was a piece of driftwood, and I picked it up, and in the sand I wrote the number 1 million. So $100,000, 000, however many zeros in a million. And it was the first time that I had verbalized that I wanted this to be $1 million business. And so I turned to PJ and I said, this is what I really want. And why did I want $1 million business? I wanted $1 million business because I wanted us to have a healthy, profitable business. But we don't all need to have $1 million business. But I thought that's what I want. That's going to drive me to start doing something different. Because what I knew, Nadine, is that I couldn't keep doing what we were doing and have $1 million business. We would need to change things up. We would need different systems, different marketing, different products and services, different people. I would need to step up as a leader in a different way and get my finger out of every pie, which it was at the time. Even though I had team, I was pretty much in charge of everyone.
Mm.
And so we started to change the company structure, what we offered, how we put things together. And then it was really a couple of years before we had $1 million business, and that became a 2 million, a 5 million, a 8 million, 11 million. It turned into a multi-5-figure business. But that writing it in the sand was kind of putting out to the universe, so talking about the universe, my heart's desire. And that was my heart's desire. And I really believe that we can create whatever we want once we get really clear. There was a preacher, I don't know if you've heard me tell this story. There was an American preacher who's long since passed. And he was in a New York City, African-American preacher. And he would say, be definite with the infinite. Be definite with the infinite. And what he meant was, when you ask, you want to ask specifically, because you can have anything. So what do you want? What do you really, really want? To kind of quote a Spice Girls song, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And so what I really wanted was that $1 million. But that same strategy of getting really clear with the universe on what you want, I think still works. Now, here's another saying, and I'm not religious, but it's another kind of faith-based quote. And this quote was, while you're praying, while you're putting your wish out there, move your feet. Which
Nice.
means don't just put it out there. You've got to kind of do the work as well.
Yeah.
And so if I had just written $1 million in the sand and went, okay, great, let's go for coffee.
Let's go.
But I had to move my feet.
Yeah.
I had to go, well, what systems do I need? What people do I need? What marketing do we need?
Mm.
Right. And so whatever we want from the universe, I think the universe will deliver.
Yeah.
If we do the work. That work might be connecting with the right people. It could be getting the knowledge and the skills. It could be letting go of limiting beliefs. It could be changing our mindset. It could be investing in ourselves, putting the money down, joining that course, that mastermind, that network, buying that piece of equipment that if you just had it would save you time and energy and allow you to move your business forward. That's what I got to say.
Yeah, I like it. I love that. Okay. You've mentioned to me in the last couple of years, well, it was probably the last time we saw each other when we came to your house, and you said you felt, and you might not remember saying this to me, you felt like you were tapping into your intuition a lot more these days.
Oh, was I at the time? Ooh.
Is that still,
it's still my greatest strength. I still feel like I underutilize it.
Okay.
But here's what changed, and I think this is the conversation we're having. I just believe it more. I believe it more.
Okay.
I listen to it more. Even people who work with me now, they're like, oh, Suzi's got a gut feel on this. Even if I'm not clear on what it is, and I haven't quite worked out whether it's a yes or a no, I know there's something that's not quite 100% clear that'll come clear to me, and when it does, it's very powerful. And so I could be in a brainstorming session with a friend or with a business colleague, and if I get a line on something, it's the only way I can explain it. I may not get the clarity, that clear 3D picture of what it is, but I will start to use it. But I think it's a great reminder that you're reminding me of this, because I do feel like if I had more quiet moments, I could. Look, I've got another religious saying. Let me tell you. I don't know where these are all coming from. Someone said the other day, and as I said, I'm not religious, but I love all these, is that when you pray, you are asking for what you want. But when you pause, you will hear what it is that you'll hear the answer.
Okay.
So it was something like that, but it was like, it's one direction, but when you stop, you will get the answer. That's the intuition. So I could say, oh, I want to go in this direction in my business, and I'm not really sure. But until I stop and pause, that intuition won't tune in. That answer won't come in. And when we're so busy going from one thing to the other, stressing ourselves out, desperate to get the next thing done and get all the tasks done and check up all the check boxes, and there's no space for that intuition to come in, then it won't come in. So I haven't fully embodied what my lesson was from that, but I do think it's more around, it's all well and good to set goals, but we also want to have that counteracted without being able to listen to our inner knowing about the right direction, the right next direction for us. Or if you believe in the occult, or you do, whether you do tarot or you do stones or you have an astrologer or whatever, I don't, whatever it is, I don't care about the medium. If there is maybe it's the Bible for you, whatever it is, it's whatever it is that's going to help you just tap into the wisdom and the awesomeness that is already inside you.
Yeah.
That we can't deny. We know we're physical beings, but we know that there's somebody who knows that it's a physical being. It's like when I talk to our women at our retreat, I always say, I'm speaking to the person who can see you in that chair and can hear the thoughts and hear my voice, but is not that physical being.
Yeah.
And so the more that we realize that there's more to us than the physical, I think there's great gifts for us available if we will just allow them in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not easy.
I'm reading a book called The Art of Contemplation.
Oh.
And it's just 90 pages, so it's not very long, but you kind of get to each step and you're like, I need to contemplate that.
Let's have to make it 200 page book. Pause and contemplate.
But the first step is to pause. Yeah. It's if you've got a problem and you're kind of mulling it over and you're going through all of these things, pause. like give yourself a moment to reflect on what it is. If you're having any experience, like contemplating, but the pause is the first thing, and it can be a breath, it can be, it doesn't
and that's
have
what we did at that beach house. We paused.
Right.
We'd been racing for 3 years, running this business, growing the business, hiring team, firing team, doing projects that went well, doing projects that didn't go very well, and finally we paused. It was the first time we'd stopped 3 days in a whole row,
And I think that's why retreats are really good, right? Because it allows people to pause, because life does just carry you along, and you can go, what the hell? Where did that year go?
Well, where did the last month go?
Yeah.
Where did the last year go? It's just, I'm totally confused. We got to the end of January 2023 and I went, hello, was there a January this year? What happened? I don't know what happened this year. And I know before I know it, it's going to be March. I'm going to be back in the US. Suddenly it's going to be, it just goes so quickly.
I know.
It goes so quickly.
So the pausing is important. Okay. We are heading towards the close. And I think that the whole, that what you were just talking about how you were talking to like almost the energy of a person, right, rather than the physical being. I'll just tell you one more thing that I've read, and it might have been from I think it is from the book The Art of Contemplation, because I'm reading a few different things. And he talks about, imagine that your mind isn't just inside your head, but that your mind is like an energy outside of your body. So if someone else is feeling a certain way, like, and it's like, when you get the vibe of someone, it's like your mind is connecting with their mind that's out there, not in here.
Oh, interesting.
And it's kind of, that's sort of like a similar,
yes, it is,
sense of where we're at. It's that's a whole nother chat.
That's an old chat, but I'm going to pick that book up. That sounds great.
It's great.
And I love the pause. The pause is always where we start, whether we're pausing because we're going to plan the next year, or if it's, you mentioned retreats. At our retreat, day one is all around pause. I mean, the reason women come is to pause and take 5 days out of their business, but day one is all about pausing and reflecting, because that's where, that intuition, that all comes in. It's like, what's my next step? Well, stop first. Because all these whys are going to get crossed if you're just going. You need to pause in order to have the space. There's no space if there's no pause. And there's a quote from a book called Thank You for Being Late. And the story is the journalist, the writer, was in a cafe waiting for a journalist to come and interview him about his new book. And he was sitting there, and 5 minutes past, 10 minutes past, the journalist still hasn't shown up. And he's just looking at his watch and saying, oh, whatever. Anyway, 30 minutes later, the journalist comes storming into the cafe. So sorry, totally lost track of time, the traffic, New York City, blah, 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 blah. He said, that's okay. Thank you for being late. That's the first time I've been able to pause in months. And so thank you. It was a gift to me. And he goes on to say, it's only when we pause that we can challenge our assumptions, that we can really connect with our deepest desires. And I've taken that kind of to heart. And it's something I teach inside of our network as well, is to find that time to pause. And when we're also busy with family, with work, with whatever the commitments are, whether it's, training the soccer team or getting the groceries or handling clients, there really isn't enough time for pause. And I think for me, if I wish for anything more for myself, is just doing more of that, is finding more time to pause without it having to be a social event, or without it having to be, a drink sitting in front of the television, but just to find those contemplative moments, whether it's journaling in the morning or it's that meditation when the app actually works. But more cheers for pausing, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that, because in the book The Art of Contemplation, he actually says that he's as well, like, see that moment where you're stuck at the traffic lights as a gift to pause. Right. Those moments, you don't need a lot of time,
rather than getting anxious.
But the more time, the more of those little pauses you have in your day, the like, things start to change. You can get a different perspective. So
I love that. And often, we have a few minutes, and so we try and fill it with something.
Yes. Right. Yeah,
I do. I look at my schedule and I'm like, oh, there's a gap. Okay, what can I put in there? Rather than thinking, okay, this would be a good time to just pause.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll pause after this interview for 5 minutes and make a cup of tea.
I was going to ask you to close, what's next for her business? Where do you see it going? Like this, it's like this big thing, but do you have like, you talk to the members about, you know, creating a vision and
and so now, Susie, you're on the spot. What's your vision?
Yeah, you're on the spot to close.
I'm on the
Tell
spot.
us what it is. Come on.
You know, for many years it was bigger, better, bigger, better, bigger, better. And I'm in a different space with it this year. We're working on some projects to make things better and easier and give our members more results faster. So we are working on redeveloping our website. We're working on, and you're the first to hear, and we are working on redeveloping our library and all our resources for our members so they can find what they need, when they need it, and the way that they need it. We have a model where right now you can only join the network a couple of times a year when we open up, and we're looking at creating an evergreen version so that if you are ready to join a network like ours, that you don't have to wait for that 1 or 2 times a year, but doing it in a way that's not overly taxing on the team as well, and having a great onboarding system so that if you join tomorrow, then you're going to be welcomed and know what you need to do and where you need to be and how things work, so that you can start moving quickly. So we've got a few big kind of tech related projects this year, and in the background we are running our retreat in Hawaii at the end of the year. I think we'll sell out this year. We've got our mastermind, we've got our monthly events, and I think that this year's kind of carved out for what it's going to look like. It's really about bedding down, because some years are years to consolidate, and some years are years to grow and explore new things. I can't help myself but come up with something new. So there's pretty much going to be something new for members this year. We always like to surprise and delight them with some different sort of events and resources. But beyond that, I don't have any,
just keep
breaking news.
Keep doing what you love every day, right?
Keep doing what I love every day, and just doing what we're doing and just do it better. And so that means, when we're doing a promotion that we might have done last year, how do we do it and do it better? When we do an event like our HerBusiness Live event, which I absolutely love, which is our annual event, we took it online because of the pandemic. We had done it in person before that. And so it's, a member favorite. So I'm like, how do we make it even better? We had 300 women each year, the last few years. I'm like, how do we make it even better? And better doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bigger, but how do we, make it better experience for everyone, better uptake of donations to the charity that we choose this year. So it's about consolidation. And I think sometimes we can get stuck on business always needs to, the numbers need to be going up, everything needs to be going up. And sometimes it's, well, why don't we look at where are we wasting money, or where are there expenses that we can come back, or where could we tweak something and make it more profitable, or take some time back. So for me, Nadine, one of my priorities, especially as the years go by, is taking back more of my time.
Yeah.
That for me is more important than, some extra dollars in the bank, to be honest, because I value that more now than I did in my 30s and my 40s, because it felt like, there was so much life ahead, and there is a lot of life ahead. And I have a different perspective on it now about how I want to spend my time. And I want to continue to do what I love every day, but but what I do every day may be different. So just little things like, not working as many hours, or working from home some days, because we have a physical office that we come into, and this is where you're seeing me right now, but just changing things up. But my priority is always, how do we get people more results faster with less stress, as far as our clients, and then as far as me and the team, is how do we make the most of our time so that they're not burning out. They're my priority, as much as the clients are as well.
Yeah, nice. Good.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, look,
chatting with you.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate the time that you've given us, especially as you've got a lot going on.
I got a lot going on. We're all good, but I appreciate the questions, and I like delving into and talking about some things that I don't normally talk about. So I appreciate that, and thank you for putting the show together and getting your voice heard, and allowing people to see your brilliance and the voices that you are giving voice to.
Well, many of them are part of the network, so it's kind of like crossbreeding or something.
Well, it's great, right? It's great, right? Because your content's right there. It's like all these opportunities to interview interesting women for your show, and probably some reciprocating things happening there as well.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Susie.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See
Bye.
you. Bye.